Welcome to the We Watch This Movie podcast, a podcast where we sit down and dissect the latest and greatest in film. I'm Dan, aka the Nolan fanboy. And by my side here is the Lynch lover Jackson, aka Marshall on Film. How you doing today, mate?
I'm stiff.
Jesus Christ. I said keep it PG. I hope you're talking about your muscles. You've been working out lately, haven't you?
I have been back to the gym, Dan. Thank you so much for noticing. Is that because it's getting hot and steamy in here? I've taken the t-shirt off for this recording. It's been a humid day here in Melbourne.
Look, if you don't know why Jackson's going on like this, today we're reviewing a movie called 365 Days.
It definitely doesn't say that in the episode title.
And, well, you never know, but some people just aren't as savvy as us. But anyway, the movie, how would you describe it, Jackson? Romantic, 50 Shades of Grey sort of style movie. So this is a different...
Fantastisch, Dan. Nigdy Libelipski.
This is going to be a very interesting podcast. I'm interested to see how we even go on this one, because it's a sort of a genre of film that we haven't sort of tackled before here on this podcast, and it's probably not within our sort of realm. You know, we're used to talking about Tenet, Nolan, and David Lynch and Tarantino. Now we're going into this sort of Polish, what would you call it? I don't even know the genre. I've got a word starting with P, but it's obviously not that. It's not obviously not that.
Dan, it might be our first foray into, I guess, the erotic thriller or hypersexualized romance genre of films. It's not our first foray into looking at a European feature. Wow! A European picture. We did look at the platform. It's refreshing, though, to have a movie not involve shit for once in this podcast.
It is refreshing to, mix it up in terms of genres. I've got here on IMDb, it says this is a drama romance. I'm a bit I question the drama side of that, but we'll get into the review. But how you been, Jackson? You been feeling well?
Dan, I'm so glad to be back working in the gym. I've been getting it back into the fitness realm of things, not watching as many movies as I've hoped, but just like quoted in this film, it's Maslow's pyramid. Sometimes you've got to look after your basic needs to then move on to the next one.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've got some sad news. Now, we made it to the cinema, which we'll chat about a little bit after the review today. We made it back to the cinema here in Melbourne, but unfortunately over in the US, we've had some more pushes of Tenet. 2 weeks now. We're seeing that in August 14th.
Push back what? What's been pushed back?
Tenet. Have you heard of it?
There's that cue.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't wait. Every time the word Tenet, you'll hear that from now on. Also, Bill and Ted is being pushed back, which we're going to review here on the pod. Mulan. So
has it really been pushed back?
Yeah, they're all because they know they're not going to be able to compete with our Nolan, our man Nolan. So, does he get a cue as well?
Sentence.
But yeah, so that's look. Do you think it's going to get pushed back again? All these films, I'm worried now because I saw it just keeps rising over there. It just doesn't look good, does it?
No, there seems to be a second wave coming through the US at the moment. It's easy for us to say here in Melbourne, we're currently the COVID hotspot, the main, I guess you'd say, pandemic area
in Australia,
in the whole of Australia. Yeah. We've just experienced in the last week the biggest spike since about April and even prior when COVID first had its outbreak here. So it's surprising that we got back to the cinemas. We did. And it is really concerning what else is going to be delayed here and what's going to come of it. In fact, we've fast-tracked this episode and we've got it out for you, our lovely listeners, because we just don't know what other movie news is going to come. Our last recording for Artemis Fowl, we were touting that Tenet, there it is again, is going to be coming out soon and not so much anymore. So who knows what's going to happen in the next week.
Yeah, we sort of outdate ourselves with these episodes because we don't put them out as we record them. So, and the news is just changing so rapidly. So we have fast-tracked This is the second of this week episode you're getting, so enjoy our lovely voices. But guys, look, I want to take a moment to thank our sponsors for today's episode. Or should I say, Jackson, to take a moment.
Listeners, we want to take this moment to thank our sensational sponsors for the podcast, and that would be, who else but ExpressVPN. Listeners, we'd love for you to check out expressvpn.com/we watch this free for 3 months free on your 12-month plan. What does ExpressVPN do? Well, ExpressVPN will keep your online activity from being traced. You can choose from 160 locations across 94 countries. You can choose from Warsaw, Poland. You can choose from Sicily, Italy. And you can keep your real location hidden from prying eyes. Maybe you want to stay hidden from your former ex who's been cheating on you. Maybe you want to keep your girlfriend locked up in a cage hidden from everyone. You can access any content no matter your location. And hopefully you never access this movie we're about to talk about. Say goodbye to block services and websites. Hey, if you want to get through a parental lock on your Netflix, well, for our younger listeners, why don't you use ExpressVPN? For example, if you're in the US, you could create an Australian Netflix account and get access to content that we only have, and vice versa. Did you know that the Australian Netflix only has access to about 38% of what the American Netflix has? People, while we're locked down, stuck in isolation or stage 3, 4, 5 restrictions, we need entertainment and content to consume. You're going to get even more with ExpressVPN. ExpressVPN has a super handy, super easy interface, which is why we support it. They support us, we support them. Again, one last time before we get into the episode, expressvpn.com/we watched this for 3 months free on your 12-month plan. And a very special shout out, URL Genius, for all your deep linking needs. If you want to go real deep on a yacht in Sicily, you want to be using URL Genius.
And if you didn't get the puns that Jackson was throwing out there, you will after this review. With that being said, let's get into today's review of 365 Days NDI.
You have 365 days. I'll do anything so you can fall in love with me. You will accompany me.
I'm not going anywhere.
Massimo Torricelli, a young and handsome boss of a Sicilian mafia family, has no other option but to take over after his father has been assassinated. Laura is a sales director in a luxurious hotel in Warsaw. She has a successful career, but her private life lacks passion. She is taking one last shot to save her relationship. Together with her bone-headed boyfriend, Martin, and some other friends, she takes a trip to Sicily. She does not expect that Massimo, the most dangerous man on the island, will get in her way, kidnap her, hold her captive, and give her 365 days to fall in love with him. Dan, you just forced me to sit down and watch this movie alone in the dark with some very interesting mood lighting.
Jesus Christ.
Where do I start with my initial reaction and thoughts on this film?
Have you had time to compress it? Because you just watched it moments ago. I watched it a few days ago now. Have you decompressed everything?
I have. I want to quickly in the as we preface it, or I guess the prologue to our deeper discussion. We are two males reviewing arguably a very female-centric movie. We got a female director. It's adapted from a female novelist. We got a female lead, or at least receiving top billing.
Are we the target market? Questionable.
I don't know, but we definitely watched it, and so did a few other people, as this is the #1 movie on Netflix, and maybe the #1 movie on TikTok of all social media platforms.
Really? Shit.
In fact, anywhere I look on social media about this film, men everywhere seem to just degrade it and throw it in the bin and say this is complete trash, and we'll go into our opinions a little bit later, but women seem to be singing its praises. Best movie ever, can't wait for the sequel. I mean, the list of praises just goes on and on and on.
They do not.
They do.
Oh, come on. They do not.
Dan, didn't you watch this with your significant other, who shall not be named?
Yeah, we did. And she did not enjoy it. So that's why I'm wondering why, where did you hear about this? Because, look, I know, I'm looking at the reviews now. When you type in the movie and you look at the actual audience score on Google. It's got a 3.8 Google audience score, and majority of them are 5 out of 5. Now, I'm telling you now, this is bought off. Okay, straight off the bat, this is definitely, I believe, bought off.
Listeners, this is episode 20, and Dan's done some research.
It took 20 episodes.
The presses.
But I'll go through some of the reviews later, but anyway.
Mate, the floor's yours. This is your reaction. Come on, please.
Well,
take it through it.
It says here, I love this movie. It was very erotic and had an amazing, powerful structure about it. Okay. It is nice to see both actors being so strong in character, and honestly, the storyline is very simple, but the way the characters portray the roles makes the plot stand out. This is bought off, man. These are completely fake reviews. Here's another one. I absolutely love this film. They've done an amazing job connecting with all the fans. It's complete bull. You can tell every time there's a normal person on here, 1 out of 10. 1 out of 10. It's either 1 or 5.
People that like this film aren't normal.
You can tell. You can look at their profile pictures, and they're literally just straight out of stock photos. It's embarrassing that they've actually paid off here. It's almost so obvious. You guys, our listeners, have a look, and you'll see what I mean. But it's hilarious. Even if you look at all the Netflix promotion of the film as well in the comments, not much positivity, Jackson. And you want to tell us the ratings now or across our IMDb and Letterboxd?
Jackson's ratings.
IMDb, Rotten Tomatoes, audience score, and Letterboxd.
Dan, I'm so glad you asked. At the time of recording, so listeners, this is subject to change. IMDb currently has this at number 73 of their bottom rated movies of all time. This is coming in at 3.4 out of 10 from almost 19,000 user ratings. So if Dan wants to say that anyone who likes this film isn't normal, well, apparently, according to the online movie community, there aren't too many that like this movie. Rotten Tomatoes, get ready. What percentage of critics like this, Dan?
0.
0%.
Oh, shit.
We've only had 11 reviews collated on Rotten Tomatoes, but a whopping 0%.
None of them wanted to watch it.
I can't blame them.
0.
Around the same time of release.
Have we had a 0?
We have not had a 0. And you know what? I can't believe it. It doesn't even star John Travolta.
Oh, shit.
Shout out.
There goes that interview we were lining up with John. Sorry, mate. I'm a fan.
Well, it was going to be Hear More Fred Durst for The Fanatic, but maybe not anymore. Rotten Tomatoes only has 11 collated reviews, and their average score from that is woeful 1.58 out of 10. Listeners, if you thought Artemis Fowl from our last episode was bad, this is truly scraping the bottom of the barrel, at least as far as reviews are concerned. Audiences come in. 32% of audiences like this one, from 642 ratings on Rotten Tomatoes, and an average score of 2.14 out of 5. Metacritic only listed 2 reviews, but an average score of 18 of 100. This has made a splash in the public, but as far as critics are concerned,
they're not even touching
wants to touch this with a 10-foot pole.
They're not even touching it because
or a 10-foot pole wedged between your legs. Now, drum roll, please. Letterboxd. From over 16,000 users who have watched and logged this movie. 1.1 out of 5 stars.
That's the lowest I've seen.
And it's been favorited by 7 people. I don't think I've seen any movie on that website only favorited by 7 people.
7 people are fans.
7 people are fans.
Oh my God, that's terrible.
I've easily seen more than 7 people singing this film's praises on my social media.
I'm looking now, and by far the most common review is 1 out of 10. And then the next best
that
is
would
2.
lead to 1.1 out of 5, so...
The next best is 2, and then 3 and 4 are just not even... They're just... It's just 1 or 2.
Well, 5... I guess 5's totally out of the conversation then.
We need to find someone that gave it 5. They're all taking the piss. For sure. That's ridiculous.
Okay, We've beaten this Polish erotic drama to the death, and we haven't even started. Dan, what were your initial reactions to watching this one a couple days ago with your girlfriend, Shani?
Absolutely terrible.
Really? You don't say?
Yeah, it was an absolute shocker, but for some reason, there's something about it where you can make it all the way through, no problem, because there's so many shocking scenes. And I found myself questioning throughout the whole film, I'm not the only one here. Is this actual real sex? Are they actually doing these things? Because I swear I saw a few slight glimpses of a body part in some scenes. And I had to look it up afterwards. And it was the most...
You had to rewind it 6 or 7 times over.
I actually did rewind it at one point. I will admit that. Just for a laugh. No, not my personal... what do you call it? My personal...
It's not to your taste, we should say.
Not for research, anyway.
You mean you did rewind it?
Sorry,
for
it was for
purposes?
research. The most common question everyone asks is the sex scenes real? And the answer is obviously no, it's a movie, but I don't know. I still don't believe it. I think...
There was some very quick cutting here from whoever edited this.
I do not believe that yacht scene is fake. I don't think it can be. How? I really just can't understand it. But anyway, look, I know that it was a very intimate set from what I've heard from one of the actors. I tell you what, I don't remember any actors' names, actresses, director names, or character names from this. So
how can you forget Michael Morleone, who actually...
You mean
sung
Antonio
the film's...
Margaretti?
Antonio Margaretti. Margaretti.
Buongiorno.
It's going to be in every episode.
Our leading man actually sung the film's theme and many of the tracks on the soundtrack.
Did he?
Yeah. What a talented
I tell
guy.
you what, he is a good-looking bloke, and that's probably half the reason these women are liking it, if any of them are. Yeah, this is a real terrible film. I mean, the story is like worse than Artemis Fowl. It's worse than Artemis Fowl, and it's downright.
It's offensive.
It's downright offensive right now, especially. It's come out at the worst time, whether that was planned or not. I mean, it's just... That's probably why the critics aren't touching it.
It's interesting you should mention that, because earlier I pointed to the fact that this is directed by a woman, produced by women, adapted from a female novelist with a female star, but it's not much of a female empowerment movie. In fact, there's another P word that springs to mind, and it's not the one you're thinking of when it comes to the sex scenes. It's problematic. This sexual Stockholm Syndrome film, it's just too repulsive. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I understand why
So
this has an audience, but I was gagging at some of these sex scenes. And not just because they're so graphic, but the idea of our male lead, Massimo, taking Laura and strapping her to a bed to do with her as he pleases when she's clearly not into it. Dan's laughing because it's so uncomfortable. It's an uncomfortable laugh, and this is how I felt watching it. I don't care how much this turns you on. At some point, when this is being put out to the public on a service like Netflix, Ted Sarandos, what the fuck were you thinking?
This is Ted's favourite film. It's his passion project.
Yeah, passion porno project.
I think he accidentally uploaded a video on one of his secret USBs to the main Netflix. Is that what happened here?
Oof. Who knows?
It's just downright disgusting. And I reckon 30 minutes of the film, we're watching this guy get oral pleasure. As nice as I can say it. Massimo.
30 minutes? Dan, what about the whole second half?
I know.
In fact, from you might say from when their relationship is consummated and Laura truly heads over to the dark side, I'm making this sound far more eloquent than it actually plays out, the entire second half is just porn. And whether that's porn where they're screwing on the yacht, or it's female empowerment porn where she has this man as acting as a sugar daddy, buying her dress after dress and paying for everything in the second half of the film. It's just... it's almost unwatchable. Again, this is coming from two men. If there are women out there who want to challenge us on this, please send in a recording. We might even add it to next episode because I want to hear who really enjoyed this movie. I don't understand, and neither does Dan.
I don't think anyone listening to this enjoyed it or even saw it, so it's all good. But
well, maybe they will now. I hope not.
Yeah, I mean, you would for the shock value. Maybe that's the play here.
When this is the number one movie on TikTok and it's just upload after upload with reaction after reaction, I guess it's working for something.
That's what I mean. Maybe it's just a play from Netflix, marketing play that we're not seeing.
I don't know about paying $11 for a subscription service per month that you could get for free on a tube site.
Yeah, it's I reckon 30 minutes you're watching this guy get oral pleasure, and another 30 he's screwing different women, or mostly her actually. He doesn't screw any other women, does he?
No, there is one scene involving, I don't know, a sex worker, you could say. It's ambiguous, and oh no, you're right, there is the air stewardess scene. That for me was pretty much the jumping off point. That was okay.
That's when you
off
knew
the cliff. Now I see where we're going.
That was so uncomfortable to watch, man. Just
between that and the shopping scenes, super egregious. We didn't need that much oral sex, and we didn't need that many shopping sequences.
I'll tell you right now.
I know it's weird paralleling the two, but when you watch this, you'll totally understand.
I gave Midsommar a 4 out of 10?
You gave that a 4 out of 10, which
I will
I'm still
watch
shocked.
Midsommar 10 times over rather than this. That is a breeze to watch compared to this. And I did not want to watch Midsommar.
Dan, who didn't make it through his second run on Midsommar, has just told us he'd rather watch this 10 times over. Are we smelling a
Seriously?
challenge? Is this what happens when Tenet... There's the cue. When Tenet... There's the cue. Doesn't make $700 million at the box office. Are you going to watch this 10 times over?
Yeah, can you not make this editing job any worse for the editor?
At Denali Gaming.
Mate, this was just so uncomfortable to watch, and I don't know. They were obviously going the route of a porno. There's no other explanation.
It's female fantasy.
They've gone and they've seen 50 Shades of Grey, and they're going, we're going to up this even further. We're going to be the number one now. You know, we've gone up here for 50 Shades, as everyone knowing.
We're going to go to 365 shades of Polish porno.
We're gonna jump over them by a mile.
Times it by 7.
I mean, 50 Shades of Grey is a masterpiece compared to this. 50 Shades of Grey is like first base compared to. Don't you think?
It's like foreplay for this.
Well, look, I've only seen the first 50 Shades, so it probably gets worse. But yeah, this was shocking. And the worst part for me is the whole film. You know she's going to turn. It's just the inevitable turn, and it's like it's just so predictable. And
it is, but the first half is much better than the second half. With that, do you want to get into the real nitty-gritty of the film and talk about how some of this unfolds?
Look,
or I guess opens up, you might say?
I can't take any more of your puns here, Jackson, so...
Yeah, stop spraying them on me.
I'm not... I can't take any more puns, Jackson, so we're going to head straight into spoilers. Spoiler alert. Now...
Okay, so... Spray it on me, mate.
Now, Jackson... I want you to tell me straight off the bat, we get the Massimo and his dad, was it, on the top of this building, and he's got the binoculars out and he's spying. Was that the main woman he was spying at?
I believe that was Laura, who he was spying on with binoculars. So very much looking down on her as an object.
Oh.
From the opening frames of the film.
Oh, no. Oh, it's just so bad.
And sadly, this and her next scene are the most character development we're going to get for the next nearly 2 hours.
Well, he gets shot. The dad gets shot. And it was just so overdramatic. the music and the way the slow motion, his reaction, it was like a...
Well, both get shot.
It was like a parody. It was so over dramatized, don't you think?
Yeah, it was very much like a soap opera.
And as you said, from that opening scene in the cockpit of the plane, or near the cockpit. Okay, these puns are really getting too much to handle here. It was. You knew it was going to be a Polish version of 50 Shades, and right after that first scene, I was repulsed, and I knew this is going to have to win me back. Really, gonna struggle to win me back, and it never did. Obviously, it just got worse and worse as it went on. It felt.
No, absolutely, mate. I totally agree with you. In fact, how long would this movie have been if you'd cut out all of these awful sex scenes? What, 80 minutes?
Short film.
90 minutes?
Would have been a short film. Would have been a short film.
I wonder how many short films have been released so far this year. This could be up there for our Oscar contention.
Just the music was so out of place, I thought.
This was very far from a Tarantino soundtrack. If that man's the master of needle drops, and that was something that we never got into on the Once Upon a Time episode, there was just far too much ground there to cover. If that guy's number one, this is easily number 1,000. Awful soundtrack. I've just gone on Spotify, and there's that many 365-day official and unofficial playlists. Who are you people? Who are you people subscribing? Who are you people listening? Who are you people creating these? Seriously, this is so cringeworthy. I thought Birds of Prey was bad with all of its female covers. This was disgraceful. There's no subtext, this entire film. What there is are some interesting visual choices. What did you think of some of these nightclub and hotel room sequences where we got these very interesting blues and oranges? Kind of reminds you of another director's work. And no, it's not David Lynch. There's the cue. Reminded me a lot of Nicholas Winding Refn. What do you reckon?
It reminded me of John Wick.
Yeah, it did.
But it just a terrible movie. Just even some of the things he says. I know I'm going all over the place here, but Massimo says things like, suck on the ice cube. And then she says, suck it yourself. It's just like, the dialogue here is just so bad. You thought Artemis Fowl was bad. Wow. Wait until you see this.
But come on, Dan, there's so much subtext here, you know? She's refusing to let him overpower her, despite the fact he's holding a gun and he's got her locked up and there's no chance of ever escape.
She's refusing to, it's just...
It believes
so
it's
wrong.
so much. It believes it's so much more clever than it actually is. She doesn't hold any power over this guy whatsoever, and he just proves it throughout every sequence for the full 114-minute runtime.
Well, this Massimo guy, I looked at his Instagram, and he has like millions and millions of followers. Whether it's just because he's a good-looking bloke,
dude.
I know that. But is he actually famous? I don't know. It's 73 on IMDb for the bottom-ranked films. Let's hope it gets in the top 10 soon. I think like with the IMDb bottom, you know, you can expect films down there like, The Scary Movie, all those sort of ones, Jack and Jill. They're all masterpieces to me compared to this. This was terrible, Jackson. This was so offensive. It was pretty much a porno. I couldn't tell you anyone that's watched it that I know that's watched it that said it was above a 3 out of 10. It's just not a movie. Like, I don't think it's a movie. I don't think it's... You can take something from every movie, like Melancholia last week, which I didn't enjoy.
Almost got you there.
But you can appreciate that and the art form of making a movie and what went into it. With this, it's just like, I don't appreciate anything about this.
The film definitely plays it fast and loose, just like we are with this podcast. There's very little character development. There's next to no plot. There's nothing that... Well, you said that it is kind of watchable, even though there's not a whole lot to grip you and bring you in. You do kind of want to find out what shocking sex scene is going to come up next, or how consequence is going to be paid. did enjoy some of the plot developments where our main character, Laura, is sent back to Warsaw. She heads back there, I guess, on her own or with Massimo. It's a bit unclear.
You enjoyed
and
that?
She visits her...
Oh,
Yeah, please.
terrible. I wanted it to end by that point. Well,
It had run out of steam.
Let
It
me
had
tell you,
well
when
and
I
truly.
said I wanted to see, like, it is watchable for a first time, yeah, when you're getting through it, but once it's all over, you're like, I just wasted 2 hours. So
My favorite parts was when it stuck to the core and the darker side of the concept. So if you are going to imprison a woman and tell her that you've got 1 year to fall in love with me, or it's suggested that something bad will happen, it's a bit sad that we didn't see that full year play out. We only got 2 months. And in fact, the only way we know it was 2 months is because the supporting character tells us with about 10 minutes left to go in the film. She could have been there for 1 week. She could have been there for 1 month. She could have been there for the whole year. We have no idea how long Massimo and Laura spend together. That's a real detriment. My favorite parts, other than some of the visual style, which... It's sad that the visual style didn't show up in a lot of the sex scenes. They were just shot broad daylight where we could see everything. My favorite scenes was when Laura came back and she dealt with the ex-boyfriend. She had the quick makeover with her girlfriend. Again, one of those shopping makeover scenes that as men, I'm sorry, it just doesn't work for us. I'm so sorry. Those still her dealing with, I've left this life behind me. That was my favorite part. It's too bad that the other 110 minutes, those 4 minutes, were totally different.
Well,
it felt like a different film. The rest of it, she was totally an object. She had no motivation of her own. You never felt like she was truly fighting to survive in this situation. She was just getting strung along by this guy, and it was really up to him whenever she was going to fall in love with him.
I thought the husband...
In fact, he pretty much did rape her for 14 minutes. There's that R word. He literally did. She had no choice but to give in and take it. That's so sad and tragic. Why are people lauding this film? Listeners, female, male, however you identify, why are you looking at this like it's a positive? It is not a positive whatsoever.
Yeah. There was a chance there to explore something with the ex-husband or her boyfriend, whoever it was, where he was like, I want you back, and then Massimo was sitting there, but he just walked off and nothing happened. It's like, you had a chance to have an argument here or some sort of story development.
Some dramatic tension.
Something.
It might have only been with 20 minutes left to go, but give us something to hang on, right?
Correct. And they just blow it. No pun intended. And the...
Pun very much intended.
The blatant switches between... languages as well was so jarring. The whole thing was just a big fat mess. I think that's
Big sweaty mess.
just even the scenes, like you said, where she's using his credit card and buying all this luxurious outfits, and then she puts some lingerie on, and of course he walks in. It's like, this is just ridiculous now, isn't it?
Oh, it's written by a teenager. You wouldn't be shocked finding this novel or finding this script. Again, we haven't read the novel, but we can only assume you wouldn't be surprised to see that kind of stuff somewhere on a fan fiction website.
I'm sorry, if you were entrapped by a guy who said, ready? This is what he said. I'd give you 365 days to fall in love with me. Okay, that's the sort of delivery we're getting here.
If you said it in that voice.
Every time you wake up, he's sitting there staring at her. Like, it's just so creepy. But of course, because he's a good-looking guy, it's all fine. Imagine if we replace him with the guy from Human Centipede. Have you seen Human Centipede? Okay.
Of course.
Yeah, that main old guy. Replace...
What about our main character from Human Centipede 2?
Exactly. Would that be a different film now? Yeah. Because she will not be
absolutely.
giving in.
We pretty much saw it.
So it's just wrong, fundamentally wrong. But the way he says things like,
Are you lost, baby girl?
I want you to teach me how to be gentle. It's just so stupid. I mean, it's funny
lost, baby girl?
It's funny to take the piss out of after the fact, but when you're watching it, yeah, it's almost comedy, some of the delivery, and he's so serious the way he's saying it, but it's so funny. I guess you could give it a few points for that, but because the subject matter here is so bad and offensive, you just can't give this movie anything. I don't want to give this movie any positive reinforcement because of how offensive it really is.
I'm right there with you, mate. I can understand why some viewers have taken positives from this, but I'm going to implore anyone to not go seek it out. If you want to get hot and stuffy watching similar graphic sex scenes, just jump in the Google machine. It's not hard. In fact, it'll cost you a lot less than a Netflix subscription.
Here's some IMDb ratings. 1 out of 10. Straight up porn, no judgment. I don't even know where to start. Look, this is nothing but straight up porn. The plot is ridiculous. The chemistry between the two leads is non-existent. And the acting is even worse. Trust me when I say you will watch this and fast forward. It's that horrible. 1 out of 10. Just terrible. The movie is legit the third worst movie I've ever seen. Incoherent plot, stupid characters, completely illogic in every sense of the word. 1 out of 10. Wasted my time. The plot was trash. Even 50 Shades has better plot than this. Things happen out of nowhere. Couldn't even get myself to finish watching the end of it. 1 out of 10. Toxic. Such stupid, worthless, toxic storyline. Glorification of relationships where the sole role of a woman is to be a slave and fulfill the desires of a harsh, egotistic, rich wild male character.
Couldn't have said it any better ourselves there.
Yeah, 1 out of 10. Probably one of the worst movies of the century so far. 1 out of 10. What on earth did I just watch? 1 out of 10. Hilarious garbage. 1 out of 10. Such a terrible plot. 1 out of 10. And it just goes on and on. You guys can look for yourself. IMDb or any other letterboxd. Anywhere you want to find your movie reviews. It's just 1 out of 10s. And you can't blame them. With that being said, Jackson, do you want to give us...
We really don't have anywhere else to go.
With that being said, Jackson, do you want to give us your final rating?
2 out of 10 prosthetic penises. This is almost as bad as Artemis Fowl. Would I go back and revisit either movie? No, obviously not. There's not
Double
a chance.
feature.
However, there were more positives and there was more to enjoy, including the sex scenes, when compared to the other shocking film that we've recently covered. It's been a bad couple episodes here at the We Watch This Movie podcast, and whatever is coming up next week, I certainly hope it's better than these two. Again, if there is anyone out there who has got positives from this and they want to recommend it to their friends, they enjoyed it, please get in touch with us at Marshall on Film, followed by an _ at Dan Allen Movies, and of course at We Watch This Podcast. We want to hear about it. We're more than happy to take the time out of our days to debate the merits of this movie with you, because it was shit. Over to you, Dan.
Jackson, for me, it's going to be my first 1 out of 10 on the podcast. Yeah, it's for me, it was worse than Artemis Fowl. Nothing redeemable whatsoever about it, besides maybe some parts you're laughing at how bad it is, but it's not one of those movies where it's so bad it's good. It's so bad it's horrific. There's just nothing good about this film, I can say, and my Letterboxd review was 1 out of 10. Probably one of the worst films I've ever seen in my life. And after deconstructing it a bit further, it probably sits in the top 3 worst films I've seen in my life. So
that's massive. This is deplorable and repulsive and disgusting and any other adjective you could use to describe something you don't like. It is all of them.
I honestly think it should be taken off Netflix.
Oh,
I'd go that far.
How is this an MA 15+ rating here in Australia? That means that mature audiences, aka anyone 15 or older, could go out and seek this film without a parent or adult guardian. Are you fucking kidding us? Not a chance.
Oh.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I like a director and enjoy some of the work of Lars von Trier, for example. Some of his work is less graphic and has received R ratings. Come on, people. How did you let this one slip in?
His stuff in Nymphomaniac was extremely hard to watch, but it probably wasn't as bad as this. So, guys, there's our review for 365 days. I haven't been able to keep a straight face throughout the whole podcast, but
it has been a lot of fun. And at least this review didn't go for 365 days.
I mean, it's just been a bad week for me, Jackson, in terms of reviews. I just haven't watched much.
For you? For both of us?
For me, I just haven't watched a good movie until yesterday. Finally, Jackson, we got to watch a great movie, David Fincher.
Oh.
Tell us about our experience, our first time back in the theaters.
Well, I would like to tell you about it, Dan, but I just can't because of rules 1 and 2.
Guys, we finally made it back to the theater. Now, there's obviously nothing new out, so they're playing Bloodshot. Check out our review on that. Invisible Man, check out our review on that. They're going back to the well, but they also had some classics going like Titanic. They had, what else did they have, Jackson?
Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
They had, I think, Avatar, just some...
Pulp Fiction.
And they had Fight Club, so that we went back and watched Fight Club, and finally, a good quality movie. It was refreshing.
Not just a good quality film, but the top quality film.
Yeah, this is a brilliant film, isn't it? I love when you go to review the movie on Letterboxd, it says, you're about to break the first and second rule of Fight Club. Publish anyway. I just thought that was a cute little Easter egg by
our favourite film social media app.
Letterboxd. Now, I ended up giving the film a 9 out of 10, Jackson. I was sitting on an 8 over the last few days, but I had to bump it up because it is a classic. I watched a few retrospective sort of video essays that put me over the line because the amount of detail in the film, I have to commend it. And it's extremely rewatchable. It's got everything you want from a film. So I had to give it a 9 out of 10. And if anyone hasn't seen it, look, probably most of you have, I definitely recommend
Hit pause and go watch it.
Yeah.
Watch it again.
Yeah, it's fantastic, isn't it?
What number watch of Fight Club was this for you?
This was only number 2 for me. I'd only watched it once before, but I really enjoyed this second viewing, knowing the twist, I guess you could call it.
It is a twist.
I took it from a different sort of perspective and really enjoyed it. Glaringly obvious sort of, I don't want to go into spoilers for anyone that hasn't seen it, but it is sort of glaringly obvious on a second watch. But again, you say that every time we see a twist, don't we? So it's hard to sort of go back and to your first viewing and take it all in. But yeah,
it doesn't take away from the quality of the film. This is a superb piece of filmmaking from David Fincher. In fact, I believe this was only his 3rd or 4th feature movie, and it came out in one of the best movie years in history, 1999. When I saw this in the cinemas with yourself, Dan, this is probably my 8th or 9th, you might say. Could even be 10th watch of Fight Club now, and it's still such an awesome movie to dissect and get a different read on every time. I had an interesting take on it when watching it only a day ago now, and this is a movie very much about toxic masculinity and about finding identity by dealing with yourself as a man. It's just... But who knows, I could watch it again next time and it might be about capitalism or about socialism. It just goes on and on and on. The performances from Brad Pitt, Edward Norton, and even Helen Bonham Carter are just fantastic. There's a word that has not shown up enough in this podcast episode just yet. Although, considering it is 365 days, it definitely doesn't deserve that word.
Brad Pitt is phenomenal. Edward Norton. Yeah, you're right.
Edward Norton, almost unrecognizable. What a man.
Yeah. It's so rewatchable, isn't it? That's
for sure. For me, it's coming in at 10 out of 10. Another top rating. 10 out of 10. Robert Paulson's.
I don't blame you. I mean, I couldn't quite give it a 10. As I said, I was leaning towards the 8, but I met in the middle of 8 and 10, obviously. And for me, a 10, it has to get to an emotional level where I'm either feeling real physical emotion, tears, or something along those lines to get me there, or it just has to be something that I just absolutely love, obviously. So this is, by no means, this is a fantastic film, and we both really enjoy it. So that's a 9.
I love it.
A 9 collectively for Fight Club. When you do our list, so guys, we've got a list on Letterboxd that shows our best to worst reviewed films. Jackson, can you please put 365 below Artemis for me? Will you do this
TBA.
one for me? We'll flip a coin. And then also, I watched a few other films. We won't get into them here. I might.
Oh, we never talk about movies on this podcast.
I've watched so much crap that I just don't want to give them the light of day.
Time of day?
Correct.
I think this movie's broken.
Time of day. I got there in the end, thanks to your help. I watched the new Joseph Gordon-Levitt film, terrible. I watched a rom-com with Alexandra Daddario, that was terrible. So I just had a really bad week for movies. But don't worry, this week I've got Alien, Space Odyssey. I'm coming back with a storm, baby. Here we go.
Sci-fi storm.
What have you been watching or playing or consuming?
Well, Dan, it's interesting you should say playing, as this week, rather than watching a movie... How smooth. How smooth.
That wasn't planned.
Not at all. This week I found myself playing, for the first time on this podcast, a game. And what a game it was. The Last of Us. Remastered. The PS4 remaster from those interesting blokes over at Naughty Dog Entertainment. I first picked this one up when it released in 2013 on the PS3. In fact, I still have my special edition steel box and all the hoo-ha that came with it. I only put a couple hours into the game. I don't know what it was. I think I was just falling out of love with gaming at the time. Sometimes it's a bit of a love-hate relationship. If I think of all the hours I've spent playing video games over the years, I probably could be an expert at something like, reviewing movies, but here we are. So anyway, The Last of Us Remastered, which was available on the PlayStation Store. I love this game. For a linear kind of action, adventure, stealth, and even a horror experience, it kind of blends all these genres into one. It was a great package. Very emotional, moving game. For a video game, it nails atmosphere and tone and a sense of dread so eloquently, so perfectly. I want to sing its praises. My only gripe, it could have been a little bit longer. We do have a DLC. I believe it's called Left Behind, maybe, to uncover, and that's going to throw some more into the game. So who knows, after that, I could even bump up my final rating. If there are any gamers out there who are still to check out The Last of Us, which is almost no one, I want to recommend it to you. My final rating for The Last of Us, 9 out of 10, hopeful giraffes.
Yeah,
Dan,
10 out of 10 for me. Last of Us is in my
Didn't you
top...
have a point to make about there being more to play in the Last of Us series?
Last of Us 1, I give a 10 out of 10. Last of Us Part 2, I've just finished.
Wow, there's a second one.
And I'm going to reserve my thoughts. I'm still playing through my second playthrough now. Last of Us Part 1 will go down as one of the greatest games of all time, in my opinion. It's something about it, just that relationship with Joel and Ellie that transcends the medium. So I'll give it a straight 10. Part 2,
the first game, that is.
Part 2, I'm still working out, but yeah.
Do you recommend myself and the listeners go check it out?
I definitely recommend you play Part 2, whether you don't, whether you like it or you don't. It's definitely worth experiencing. That's it for today's episode, guys. It's been a pleasure. Some upcoming movie reviews from us. We're going to take a look at the new David Copperfield film. It made it sound like he's a director.
He could be.
Film about David Copperfield. We're going to take a look at the Aussie film Relic, Unhinged with Russell Crowe, Inception, Milan, Tenet, lots to come on the We Watch This podcast. I hope you're enjoying yourselves, guys. We appreciate you guys following us on all social media platforms, whether that's Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Letterboxd, YouTube, you name it, we're on everywhere. And a 5-star rating would be very much appreciated on Apple Podcasts. Jackson, where can they find you?
At Dan Allen Movies, they can find me at Marshall on Film, followed by an underscore, on Instagram, Facebook, Letterboxd, Twitter. You can even find the podcast and myself on TikTok as well. And like Dan said, we'd love for you to check out us, the We Watch This Movie podcast, at We Watch This Podcast.
Beautiful, guys. It's a short but sweet episode today. Or maybe not sweet, I think.
Very sour.
Very sour, but things are looking up hopefully next week. And we will have that Q&A next week as well. So send in your questions. Thanks for listening. We'll see you later.